everybody, it's Rune the Angel Dragon here, and goodness, it is really early. It is literally 5:52 in the morning. I'm up way too soon, but I just randomly thought of something. Well, not thought of something, but I was checking my messages this morning on an app called Whisper that I use because I like looking in on people's secrets because I'm weird that way. And, I saw something that was really interesting. I've been posting around the area, which this is, Whisper, if you don't know, is an anonymous app. I don't know if any of you know Post Secret, but Post Secret's where you post your secret anonymously for the whole world to see. And Whisper's kind of like that, only just on a more local scale. People more or less nowadays use it as a hookup site, but then there's people like me that kind of just use it just to see, what other people are thinking and to get helpful advice about some certain things, because you can basically ask any question you want for fear of not getting caught. Because it is all anonymous. They generate your username for you, and the only thing people can see is possibly your gender if you decide to identify yourself as such. And of course, it tells you how far away this person is from you, but not their exact location. So that's about as good as you're gonna get. But I don't need to really explain it further. It's just a friend who got me to try it because he thought it was funny. And so I decided to try it as well because I thought it was funny. And nowadays I use it to try and find furries within the area so that maybe we can go to like some local fur meets or something like that. And because I've been posting a lot of furries, I've been getting a lot of messages online from people asking me what the furry thing is about. The one thing I don't like about Whisper is that you can join groups, but when you post in a group, it also posts to the nearby function, which means if I say, hey, any fuzzbutts in Texas, then automatically not only does that post go to the furry group, but it goes to the nearby group, so anybody nearby me can see that I'm looking for furries in the local area, or that I'm looking for furries from Texas. So not only have I gotten a lot of mail from actual furries, kind of saying, well, yeah, I am, but I don't know of any meats and I don't have a suit. I've also gotten a lot of messages from closet furs, so to say, which are actually just called adjacent furs, since you don't come out as a furry, or you're technically not supposed to because it's not a sexuality. But I've gotten a lot of messages from adjacent furs asking me questions about the furry fandom. Not only that, but I've actually just had questions from people in general that are not of the furry fandom asking me what the big deal about the furry fandom is. So, sorry, I have a cough drop in my mouth. So, I thought it was actually really interesting to kind of go over some of the things that people have posted. Naturally, these people are anonymous, so it's not like I can give you a name or anything. And I actually just think it's really cool that people have been asking me these questions. There's a saying that of course goes, people fear what they don't understand. And the thing is I do not judge people for fearing something if they don't understand it. What I will judge them for is if they don't try and understand it first. If they don't try and educate themselves so that maybe they can get over their fear, or maybe they can make more sense of their fear. That is what bothers me. The thing is I understand that the furry fandom is not for everyone. It never will be. It is something that it's more mainstream now, but it's just not for everyone. People have their own ideas about what it's about. Some people's ideas will never change because the furry fandom has so many different things involved in it that any one person's opinion is not completely wrong about the furry fandom, but it just doesn't encompass the majority of us. Therefore, some of the misconceptions could be said that it is true, but only for a very small fraction to where it shouldn't count. But a lot of people, even with their misconceptions, they don't try to understand that not all furries do this, or not all furries are about this. So, I like it when people actually message me with questions, because at least they're trying to educate themselves on the furry fandom. And in trying to understand the furry fandom, I feel like the misconceptions about us can at least go down a little bit. But anyways, before I drag on too long, here's basically what this person messaged me. They said, I basically wrote, there was someone asking if they could get, how they get into the furry fandom, or basically saying they had so many questions they weren't really sure what it's about. So I whispered back, and I was like, well, feel free to ask me anything, and I'll respond when I can, because I've been really busy this week. So this other person, not the person that originally posted the whisper asking for advice, this different person messaged me and said, can I ask you something about furry things? And I was like, of course, go ahead. And they literally gave me this list of things that they wanted to know about. And it says, okay, so, how do you pick a persona? What is the main reason to be a furry? How do I meet other furries? Is it bad if I want to be a secret furry? Is it bad that I want to be a sexual furry? And if it's not bad to be a sexual furry, how do I go about that? Now, for anybody that is not 18 and older, I would suggest you not listen to this video in case I do bring up some adult topics. However, if you are 18 and or if you can be mature enough to handle such conversations, then proceed to watch, because I'm not going to go into too much depth about the darker side of the fandom, but I do need to address that such parts of the fandom actually do exist. They are a part of who we are, so that's a thing. You know, I hate that people try and pretend like it's not a thing, but it is a thing. And I'm adult enough to admit it's a thing, even if it's not my thing, even if I'm not into it myself. I can at least acknowledge that other people are, and I'm not going to judge them or diss them based on their personal preferences within the fandom. So, going back to the questions though, I said, for one, you usually pick a persona based on your favorite animal, and it could be a mythical creature as well, and then you give it colors and markings, or the hairstyle and etc. that you yourself find appealing. Your persona does not have to look like you, it does not have to match your gender, and it does not even have to have your personality. It can be whatever you want it to be. Also, not all furries have a persona. It is not required to have a persona at all. So if you're the type of person that you're like, man, what would my persona be? And you're just like, I don't even like any animals. Or if you just don't like think personas are attractive at all, you know, not really attractive but appealing aesthetically. I don't know. If you literally just don't feel the need to create a character for yourself, you don't have to create a character for yourself. I've seen characters as simple as just regular looking huskies. I've seen regular looking tigers. They have no hairstyles, no nothing to distinguish them. But then you have characters like mine, which I made on my own. Like, just drew it out, you know, and colored it and decided all the markings and patterns all myself. Same with my wolf. Or you have people that they go and they adopt a persona. So they literally just find people that are selling massive amounts of adopts. They pick out their favorite one and then they go, boom, that's my persona. But I didn't tell them about the adopts because adopts tend to be more complicated. And I'm a firm believer in making your own persona. I believe that it's more personal that way if you do so. I believe that you have more of a connection with the character if you actually make it yourself. The thing I see most often is people will buy massive amounts of adopts. They'll have adopt. They'll have like 8 different characters. And then a month down the line, they're selling these characters. And they're like, oh man, I just didn't connect with them. And naturally, I kind of have a duh moment for them because I don't feel like you connect the same with something that you buy versus something that you made yourself. But as a person that would consider myself a hobbyist / artist in the sense that I do draw, I have a passion for drawing, I just don't make any money off of it. I still consider myself an artist of sorts. As someone that's more of an artist, to me I have more of a connection with the things that I design, the things that I make, versus the things that I buy. Especially if they're not of my personal design. So while I do have characters I have adopted, they're not as close to me as, like, say, Rune or my winged wolf Mia, because I didn't make them. Now, I do have one adopt. She wasn't really adopted, but she was made personally for me, per the things that I told the artist I liked. Therefore, I share more of a connection to her because I gave specific instructions on what color she should be, what markings she should have, what she should be inspired from. So naturally, because she does meet all my likes, I feel closer to her. But random adopts that I've bought throughout my time of, well, being a furry, most of them I've sold because, again, I don't share a connection with them. I don't feel the need to keep them because I don't have any use for them. And they don't mesh with me. They no longer serve a purpose for me. So I didn't go into adopts, but I told them, you know, if you're going to make a persona, animal that you like, an animal that you admire, an animal that you'd like to have the traits of, you choose their hair, their, you know, if they have any piercings or if they have any tattoos, if they have any scars, you choose their markings, you choose all their colors, from their eyes to their tongue, to their fur, to their hair, to their tattoos, to their markings, to their scars, to their paw pads. You decide every detail of this character. That's how you make a persona. And I will have a separate video about making a persona as well. So, the second was, you know, the whole thing about what's in it for being a furry. And I said, what makes a furry is an appreciation of anthropomorphic animal art, which are animals with human characteristics. We call these anthros. But people join for different reasons. Some people join the furry fandom just to belong somewhere. Some people join because they like making or buying anthro art. Some join because some become furries because they love suiting up as an animal, and some join because to them it is a kink and they like the more sexual side of the fandom. Everyone has their own reason. Myself personally, though, I became a furry because I've always drawn myself as an animal character. I love the freedom it gives me to create, and I love the people I have met within the community. And I've said this to a couple of people, is that the majority of the reason why I stayed in the furry fandom is because of the community. It's because of the people that I've met throughout my time being a furry. Now, granted, when I first joined the furry fandom, I had no idea how to reach out to other furries, and all I had was my friend. For a long time, I felt very alone in this thing, you know, this furry fandom. I felt very alone, and I guess in feeling alone, that's why I distanced myself from it for a long time. And then when I came back, they had all these groups, because back when I was a furry, we didn't have very many resources for furries to meet up. There was Fur Affinity, but it was really hard to make an account. And then there was E621, which is not so much a community. To me, it's more of an art gallery. And then there was Furcadia, which I noticed that, like, Furcadia, it's kind of like half and half if you find a furry. Most people don't understand. It's kind of more or less meant for furries, but, And Second Life was just, it was brand new back then, and I could barely figure out Second Life, let alone IMVU. IMVU is way super complicated, so my resources back then, having shitty internet and not really knowing where to look and what to look for specifically, my resources were very limited, so for the longest time I felt very alone. But coming back into the fandom, suddenly there's Facebook groups, and I'm on Fur Affinity, and I'm on Furcadia, and I'm on IMVU, and, you know, and now Whisper has a furry group too, lots of them, and so it's just like I'm finding furries all over the place. Now I talk to them on Skype as well, and, you know, it's really been awesome for me to reach out to people, and these people are so sweet, so supporting, so loving. And the second part of the furry fandom that I like is the creations. It is the art. It is the expression. It's the fact that these people can create these amazing characters in these amazing settings, and it's just beautiful, and it just makes me happy every time I see it, what people can create and what they can come up with. So, the third one was talking about meeting furries. And nowadays, as I said, meeting other furries is not as hard as people think. You can join furry groups on Facebook. There are a ton of them. FetLife, I guess, is supposedly a good site to meet furries. I don't know anything about FetLife, so don't quote me on that. And it's like you can also go on Fur Affinity and meet furries as well. And you can join furry groups on Whisper or on Keek. Keek seems to be very popular with furries. I don't know anything about Keek either, so don't ask me about that. I do know, as I said, that a lot of furries play PC games like Second Life and IMVU. For Cadia, you can meet furries, but like I said, it's kind of half and half. However, for Cadia is much easier on your browser because it is all pixelated and you are kind of limited to what you can kind of do with your character. And it is more of a sandbox game, but for just chatting, yeah. If you just want to meet furries, I don't think it really matters. You just choose what species you want and you don't need anything fancy. All you have to do is say that you're roleplay friendly and people will just jump on that like nobody's business. But going on about the secret furries. Now, secret furries, adjacent furries, closet furries, they're pretty much all the same thing. Secret furries, obviously, is where you keep the fandom to yourself. You don't want anybody to know because usually a fear of being judged. Closet furry is the same thing. Closet furry is where you keep it to yourself and you eventually want to tell people, but you're not sure when is going to be the right time to tell people, which I used to think closet furry was a thing. I used to think it was something you kind of had to come out as, but you don't really have to come out as it. As I've realized before, basically, furry is not a sexuality. I mean, I came out of the closet as being a lesbian. I mean, sorry if that's blunt or forward, but I did. Now that I've gone through that, I realize that coming out of it as a furry is kind of stupid. Because it's not really that big of a thing. It is a hobby. It's a fandom, it's a hobby. It doesn't really affect your life that much as far as, like, who you're going to be with the rest of your life kind of thing. I don't know. It just doesn't have that profound mark on your life, such as having to come out as a lesbian, or having to come out as gay, or having to come out as trans, or having to come out as bi, you know, like, being a furry is just like, Mom, Dad, I'm a furry, and then they're like, do whatever the fuck you want, like, it's your life, you know? I don't know, I feel that it has less of a importance to it than coming out as a real sexuality, so closet furry is still a term that's used. I personally just don't agree with it anymore, and the real term for it is now called adjacent furry, which means you are part of the furry fandom, but if someone confronts you on this, saying, hey, are you a furry, you'll most likely tell them no, or you'll just be like, does it matter, or you'll just be like, meh, you know? So adjacent furry is just people that are part of the furry fandom, don't really consider themselves a furry in public, won't say that they're a furry. Those are called adjacent furries. So, and I said, secret furries are common and are usually called adjacent furries. If you want to keep your hobby a secret, that's really your own business, and it's true. If you decide that, you know, you personally just want to keep this all to yourself, then you have every right to do so. And you keeping this to yourself really just doesn't affect other people. So, I don't know, it's all up to you, bruh. And finally, the final part was about the sexual furry thing, which were questions 5 and 6. And I said myself, which this is just my opinion, so you don't have to take it verbatim as what you need to believe naturally. I said there's nothing wrong at all with wanting to be a sexual furry. It's very common in the fandom. As far as how to go about it, that depends on what you mean. If you're looking for a sexual roleplay, you just have to find a role-playing partner. The game called Furcadia is really good for online furry stuff in that sense, from what I've seen. As far as the furry pornography, as some people put it, you can go to any furry art gallery like Fur Affinity, E621, and etc. I'm sure Weasley has it. I know that Tumblr has a lot of that stuff. But all those have art and animations for basically every fetish you can find in the world. That just kind of that they mesh with the furry fandom. And then basically I explained that if you're looking for stuff that's like in a fursuit, that's called mersuiting. That's a mersuit, that's called mersuiting. It is not the same as fursuiting. It's not the same as what I'm doing right now. That category, I don't really know anything much about it. I'm not into it myself. Same with the other stuff. I'm not really into it myself. And I told him that mersuits are more rare. I wouldn't know how to reach out to people about that because I'm not into it again, so therefore I've never gone looking. And same with the furry pornography and that kind of thing. It's just not really something I'm personally into myself. So it's not something I go actively looking for, but also when I see it, I don't throw a fit. Like, I'm honestly not like, oh my god, I can't believe I just saw that, you know? More or less I'll be browsing, la la la, and I'll be like, oh, it's a dick. Alright, scrolling on, and I just keep scrolling, and then I'm like, more dicks. You just keep scrolling, like, I can be an adult about it. I know that this is just anatomy, this is just normal stuff, and honestly, even when it gets crazy, my wife and I will look at this stuff and we'll be like, holy hell, like, we'll see it, we'll be like, wow, that's crazy, you know, and we'll kind of chuckle about it, we'll be like, oh my gosh, what is it, you know, and we'll laugh, and then we'll move on, because we're adults. Like, yes, we can laugh about it, we can be immature about it for, like, 2 seconds, and then we're like, okay, scrolling on, you know, and some of the artists that I watch, they have a wide spectrum of what they encompass in their artwork. So some of it's safe for work and it's very nice, and then some of it gets really crazy and kinky. And so I'm not gonna not watch someone just because they have, you know, commissioners that occasionally ask for something a little bit more crazy and out there. Like I said, it's all about your maturity level. So, I mean, you can easily see not safe for work stuff and not be like, ew, that's gross, why are you doing that? You know, it's not really that hard. So, while I did try and point this person in a direction that I personally knew of, because I've had people approach me before saying, hey, you want to do a sexy role play? And I'm like, no thank you, sir. You know, since I have had those experiences, and I have seen people on Whisper asking for those types of role plays and such, I could obviously point him in the direction to go, and I'm like, hey, if you want to do that, go for it. I'm not going to judge you, I'm not going to blame you. There are people in the fandom strictly for the more adult themes. There are people in the fandom for the more adult stuff in general, and who am I to say that that's wrong? I know that there's some controversy about it where supposedly Uncle Kage or whatever kind of wants to pretend like the sexual side doesn't exist. But the thing is it very much does, which is why Fur Affinity is dominated by porn. But, as I said before, there are safe for work filters, and I might have said it here in another video. There are safe for work filters on Fur Affinity. You can click that and you won't see anything adult. Not only that, but on Facebook there are a lot of groups that are PG-13 and they never escalate above that level. And not only that, but a lot of those groups, they don't allow other kinks in there. So you're not going to see gore, you won't see anything with blood. You know, you're not going to see gore, there's not anybody going to be having their intestine falling out or their heads chopped off, you know. Candy gore is allowed in some of them, others it's not. You know, like you won't see any inflation stuff or diaper stuff because they don't allow fetishes. You know, you're not going to see macro stuff or anything like that in these PG-13 groups. And you're also not going to see anybody mate begging, which is really annoying to me. And it just makes it for a very safe place, a very safe environment in general. So if you know where to look, you can kind of seclude out the places that are safe. And then if you're looking for more adult stuff, then you can you know, kind of own in on those places that are more adult. For Affinity, press the Safe for Work button. Everything's safe for work. Click it off. Good luck to you, sir. You know, have fun. And it all comes down to personal preference, and there are people that obviously mersuit, there are people that yiff at cons, there are people that, you know, are non-monogamous, that, you know, do participate in these more adult things, but it's really just your personal preference. It's who you hang out with, it's what you want to do, it's what goals you set for yourself within the fandom, why you joined the fandom to begin with. So the key here is to, like I said at the beginning, to not lump all of us together in one collective of furries. Just because someone likes gore and vor and inflation and, you know, all these other things, you know, bondage and whatever, just because one furry loves all that stuff, don't assume I love all that stuff. You know, I'm not that same person. I have different tastes. So there are things that I like that are completely different. So don't put me as part of a collective with that same person saying that everyone is like that person when I'm completely different from that person. You know, it's kind of like you can't lump cat people and dog people together. Just because one cat person might say, well, I like dogs too, you can't say that all cat people love dogs. Or if one dog person has a cat, it's like, well, I love my cat. You can't say that all dog people are cat people too. So it's kind of the same thing. You can't say all furries are perverts or horn dogs or whatever, because honestly, there's a lot of asexual furries. And so saying all of them are perverted and sexual, well, that's just not true. So again, you really have to take into consideration the fact that we're all different. The fandom is very expansive, and it has a lot of different things that are included in it, and not every furry is plugged into every little facet of this fandom. Instead, it's like a web, and they kind of just pick and choose what they want to be a part of. But, I don't know. Anyways, I thought this was really interesting. I was glad that this person mailed me. I'm glad that I could at least offer them my opinions and my insight. I, of course, later told them that they should ask other furries the same question so that they can kind of get a general idea, since we all are very different and we all join for our own purposes. If ever you are a non-furry, you stumble across my videos, and you decide that you have a question for me, you can of course leave it in the comment section down below, or you can find me on my Facebook page or my blog and you can leave me a comment there if you want to remain more anonymous. And I'll be, I would love to answer them for you, so of course just let me know. Go ahead and hit like if you like these videos. If you'd like to see more, feel free to subscribe if you want to. We're almost to 40 subscribers and I'm very excited. I want to do an art raffle soon, but that video will be coming later. And so I really can't wait to do these gifts for you, these art raffles, and it's going to be very exciting, very fun. So anyways, I'm going to tune out for now, and I'm going to try and go back to sleep. But see you all in the next video. Alright, bye guys!